Christopher Mad Dog Russo is from SiriusXM. He's the host of High Heat over on MLB, and he joins us on HANradio.com. Chris, Rob Adams, how are you?
Well, Rob, good afternoon, baby. How are you, pal? Okay?
Doing great. Great to talk to you. It's been a while.
And it sure has, since the football a year or so ago, when we had those great rivalries, of course, last 2 years with New Canaan and Darien, but looking forward to this FCIAC scenario right now. Bad loss for New Canaan last night. Well, yesterday, their own fault. They lost to Stanford, which put them in the 3-seed spot, which resulted in getting this pitcher from Trinity Catholic. So, you know, basically, if you don't take care of business in the regular season, you might get a matchup you do not like in the postseason.
And, Dog, I've talked about it when I've done our broadcasts here on HAN Radio that, you know, you run into a pitcher in baseball. It's a whole different story than, say, basketball or hockey. You know, the goalie's going to be the same from day to day. But in baseball, you run into a Randy Polonia from Trinity Catholic if you're the New Canaan Rams, and that spells trouble.
No question about it. And they had some hits, too. They didn't score with runners in scoring position, less than 2 out. I haven't watched New Canaan baseball enough to have an idea what exactly they're up to, what's their strengths and weaknesses, but I do know that they lost to Stanford last week 9-1, and I do know that put them down a spot in the seeds, and I was told over the weekend, because I know the Stanford coaches pretty well, that means they're going to face this Trinity Catholic, and who might be the best pitcher in the conference, although I know the kid from Staples is good too, but the fact that they had to face him in the first playoff game was going to be very tricky. And, of course, they got what they deserved. I mean, if you don't take care of business in the regular season, they could have knocked Stanford out of the postseason. They did not do so. And Stanford put them in a bad light, and now they got to regroup for the states, but losing in the FCIAC quarterfinals is not what you're looking for if you're New Canaan baseball.
You mentioned the pitcher from Staples, that's Ben Kasparius, who dominated yesterday against Fairfield Ward. They'll take on Trinity Catholic. Obviously, Kasparius won't pitch, so that's an interesting matchup with Trinity and Staples. That's the later game tonight on HAN Radio. So, you know, the winner moves on to the FCIAC championship, and Staples has been that number 2 seed. It's been that team that's kind of been hanging around. I wonder what Trinity has to do to get past the Wreckers tonight.
Well, you would know more about that than I would. I don't know what the depth of the pitching. You know, the scenario here now is you're allowed to use the pitcher for 30 outs a week. Is that what it is? Is that the rule in the FCIAC?
Right.
30 outs a week for the starting pitchers. So I don't know who the second starters are for these two teams. You obviously got to use your best pitcher in Game 1 to advance, then take your chances in Game 2. You can't fool around with the games and save a particular pitcher. You get no day off anyway, so the kid from Staples can't pitch. The kid from Trinity Catholic can't pitch. What did those two teams do in the regular season? Does anybody know who won the game in the regular season?
I believe Staples won in the regular season, so it does
did win.
Yeah, it does make for a good matchup, though.
Yeah, very good matchup. Listen, be a good game. When you get down to that one-game scenario in baseball where it's one win, a bloop, an error, a well-pitched game from somebody you don't expect, that determines who decides. Baseball, it's weird. In basketball, the better team usually wins. In football, the better team usually wins. Hockey, the goalie has a big deal. Lacrosse, the better team usually wins. But in baseball, it's one game. It's a very unpredictable sport. The best team doesn't always win. And whoever has the better pitching advantage tonight would have the best opportunity to win the game. I would think Staples would, because of the fact that Trinity Catholic seems to be dominated by the one kid, Polonia. So I would think that Staples has the advantage tonight. And Darien is probably the best team in the conference, and Darien can hit. So I would suspect that Darien tonight will win the other game against Wilton, and I would think you get a Darien-Staples final there in a couple days.
Just to double back, Trinity Catholic played Staples on May 6th, and the Wreckers took it to them 11-5. That was at Staples in Westport. But we've got that Wilton-Darien showdown. We saw J.T. Morin strike out 14 in a high school baseball game yesterday, going the distance. He was outstanding, getting 14 strikeouts out of 21 outs in the game. He told us maybe he could go Friday if the Warriors are able to advance to the championship, but I agree with you. Darien's been so good. They've got the good offense. Stephen Barston pitched a tremendous game yesterday, so I would tend to agree, not that I want to necessarily make predictions as the play-by-play guy, but it seems like Darien and Staples are on a path to a championship game.
Who's the best pitcher in the league?
I would say it's Polonia, dog. I really do. I think Polonia's been outstanding. We like Stephen Barston a lot, and it kind of works out well that he's an intern for us here at Hersam Acorn. So, he's a good kid, and he's.
Where's he going to college?
He is not. I don't think he has decided where he's going yet, or he hasn't told us, to be quite honest. But I'll see him later today, and we'll find out. But he's a good pitcher and a good kid. So, he's likable. I thought Morin was great. Kasparius was great. And, of course, as we already said, Polonia is probably the best in the conference, and if not best in the state.
And Kasparius is a great player. This he's only a sophomore. He's going to go anywhere he wants. Is that the deal in a couple of years?
Yeah, and he's going to go to UConn right now. That's at least the game plan for Polonia, that is. Kasparius, he's still young.
And how about Yeah, he's got a chance. I mean, he's only a sophomore, so he has a chance to call his shots in a couple of years. I mean, is the quality of the FCIAC baseball, the FCIAC hoops this year was not great. Is
right.
The quality of the FCIAC baseball good?
It's outstanding this year. It's one of the best years I've ever seen for FCIAC baseball, Chris. I think it's been a really good year, and I'm excited to see what these semifinals bring us. I think this is tremendous baseball this year.
Really? And how about the games at Harbor Yards? Are those games fun to watch in that ballpark?
Oh, it's a blast. I mean, when you look at all the high school fields around here, and some of them are pretty good, but there's still nothing like going to a place like Harbor Yard where, and dog, that dovetails perfectly into talking about something we did about a month ago in a place that I'm sure is close to you when we all went and watched Brian McMahon and Norwalk play up at Doubleday Field in Cooperstown.
Oh, you did? You went to go watch the Brian McMahon and Norwalk played up at Cooperstown this year in baseball? How about that?
Yeah, we got to broadcast that game, and that's, it doesn't get much better for a ballpark to go to than that one. That
is phenomenal. I did not know that those two teams played up there at Cooperstown. That was a special. Was that like just viewed as an exhibition game, or they actually played an FCIAC conference game up at Cooperstown?
It was an out-of-conference game. The teams play twice. They play once in the regular season, and then they play once as an out-of-conference game. They played the out-of-conference up there, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah, at Cooperstown.
Well, that is tremendous. I know a lot of people go up there and love the baseball at Cooperstown and love that field. So you've had an active year, and it's been a good year for FCIAC baseball. So, and this should be you're going to have good hot weather too these next 2-3 days. So it's going to feel like the baseball season. And you didn't have a lot of rainouts this year, so the FCIAC and you got a lot of college kids. You got a lot of kids going to play college baseball. I know the kid from Polonia is going to play at UConn. It seems like there's about. I know you just see the picture from New Canaan's going to Lafayette. So it seems like there's about 7 or 8 kids who are going to play college baseball in the FCIAC. Is that correct?
That is exactly right. And you mentioned a couple of them. David Giusti, who's been outstanding, didn't pitch well yesterday, had a bad inning, that one bad inning up against Trinity Catholic, and you can't do that with Polonia on the other side of the hill. So, that was an issue for them. But, yeah, it's been a great year for FCIAC baseball. And like I said, I can't wait to see where not only tonight goes, but Friday as well. We're a little concerned about some thunderstorms in the area, giving us some headaches. But other than that, should be a good time up in Bridgeport for us.
And they take the day off in between semifinals and the finals. So if you pitched the other day, if you pitched yesterday and you've got 21 outs, that means you get to the final. That means you can get 9 outs in the final. Is that correct?
That is correct. And with that day off, it gives the softball teams the chance to have their moment as St. Joe's will play Stanford. That's also a game we'll have tomorrow. So that'll be fun as well. And it has. It's been a terrific FCIAC baseball season. But you brought up FCIAC basketball. And just a moment there because I know your son Timmy plays for the New Canaan Rams. Not a great year FCIAC basketball-wise.
Terrible. I mean, I don't know enough. I don't know how to gauge it. So I haven't seen a lot of the FCIAC over the last 10, 12 years. I can't gauge it. They had a good championship game, Norwalk, with Kane and with Livingston. Those are 2 good matchups.
Right.
2 excellent players. I mean, so it wasn't hideous, but from everybody, what I've been told, from folks who've been around the FCIAC for a long time, this was not one of their better years as far as hoops are concerned. Plus, they lose Harding and Bassick for next year. And Harding and Bassick are bad in the other sports, but they're very good in basketball. So it has a chance not to, and because Harding and Bassick Bassick got to the FCIAC tournament this year, and they both made the state. So from that standpoint, next year in hoops could be actually a little worse. New Canaan should be a little better, so maybe that combination will put them in a situation where they can somehow win 8 games. But I mean, I think that, it was really a big day in the FCIAC yesterday. Track and field championships. Darien beat New Canaan badly in lacrosse. There was a lot of sports yesterday in the FCIAC, and I'm surprised they do it the day after the Memorial Day weekend. I'm surprised they don't do it maybe today to start these big games. To come back and play all their tournament games the day after a long weekend is a little surprising that they wouldn't give these programs a chance to have a practice before they went out there and played all these big games. I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I think there are a lot of scheduling concerns there, Chris, in that, for instance, Friday's baseball championship, if Darien gets there, their prom is the same night, which could change the start time of that baseball game. I've heard it could get backed up to 5, and the Darien players aren't even pleased with that. So when you factor all that in, you've got all these little scheduling issues, and it makes it kind of crazy for everyone.
So the Darien prom is Friday, and the game is scheduled right now for 7 o'clock?
7:30, right.
So they have to move it back so they can go to their prom. Well, that is a tricky situation. You're right about that. Yeah, so listen, it's not easy scheduling all these sports with all these teams, so I can understand where they're coming from. But I've been into the high school sports. I mean, partly because the son's playing, but partly because I know a couple of the coaches, which I get into. I know the Stanford High School basketball coach, Melzer, very well. I know I know a couple of the New Canaan guys pretty well. So, and I think there's a little better balance in some of these sports. Football, there's no balance. I mean, it's New Canaan and Darien. There's no balance in the football. They're by far the best teams. But in basketball and the other sports, baseball, there seems to be a little better balance, which provides for a little more drama as far as the regular season is concerned. Football, I mean, New Canaan wins every game by 100 points until they play Darien. So it's a little different situation. The other sports have a little more balance, so it's fun to watch these FCIAC games.
I remember in the days when you were on WFAN, you were even interested in high school sports back then. I remember you talking about the Greenwich-Naples, Florida game that I broadcast down in Florida. You were into that at the time. What's gotten you so driven by high school sports?
Well, I mean, in Connecticut, you kind of live it. New Canaan's a small town, so everything kind of revolves a little bit around the football team. I was aware of that Greenwich thing in Naples. I got friends who live in Naples who were aware of it too. Steve Young played at Greenwich. I don't get a chance to go to that many of the games. I go to a lot of more basketball games than I do the football games, but I have definitely been a little bit more into it here in the last couple of years. It's sort of a little different to get more involved. I don't have any rooting interest per se outside of New Canaan. I don't have to worry about interviewing anybody, analyzing it on radio or TV. So from that standpoint, it's a little less pressure. So I don't have to worry about nodding off, falling asleep. I like to get to more of the games. I mean, it's hard to get to all the games with the starting times. I like to see a little more of the games. I'm not like my old buddy Liberatore there, Gary Liberatore, who goes to every high school football game he can find, which I've read about in the New Canaan Advertiser. But I like to go to as many games as I possibly can. I do remember that Greenwich down in Naples. I do try to keep an eye on a New Canaan football team. But, I mean, having a kid be involved in a high school helps, too. Plus, I know some of those kids in New Canaan. I got a little better feel of all the teams, who's good, who isn't good, who's going where, scholarship-wise, a little better sense of what's happening right now.
Let's spin it over to your career for a moment, because you've made some good friends over the years in terms of, people who've been influential. Coming out of Florida, you come up here, Don Imus kind of takes you under his wing in a matter of speaking, and then you wind up doing a bunch of stuff with Letterman as well, even being on one of his last shows. Tell me about all of that.
Well, both are very significant. Imus is the guy who put me, who really got me on track, because I was on WMCA for a year and a half, and, Imus got a hold of me, put me on his morning show. This is in the late 80s. And I did the updates for him, and he really is the guy that had a lot to do with the creation of Mike and the Mad Dog. That's the first thing. And once I was able to get on there on FAM with Mike on a daily basis, that means Letterman's a big sports fan. He lived in, this area, drove back and forth, and, he was more curious than anything else. This, noisy New Yorker, talks fast, weird accent. So let's throw him on and see what he's got, which is typical Letterman. He likes to find the odd character. And so when he put me on there, first time was in February of '91, when he was on NBC. I knew how to play off him. He played had a lot of fun with my hands, and that was a very fun appearance. And since that appearance, he had me on, probably twice a year for 20-something years. So I was very lucky to get on that last couple weeks, April 23rd. Both very significant. Don't forget Stern, too, because
Right.
since I've been on Sirius, I've been on Howard 5 times, and Howard, being on Howard all those times is tremendous. You'd be amazed the amount of notoriety getting on Howard's show brings you, too. So I've been very lucky that 3 big icons, Imus, Stern, and Letterman, one on TV, one on Sirius, and one on over-the-air, have had a lot to do with my career. I can do all the great talk shows I want, but that's a different audience, all 3 of them. I was really psyched that I was happy that Dave got me on that last couple weeks. I was going to be on that first Monday, I think it was April 8th or 9th, and he had to push me back. And the later you would be on, the better it was going to be. So I was fortunate that I was on April 23rd. That was he's always given me a couple of segments. I really, really got into that. And, listen, Dave finished up well. But those 3, very significant to my career, no question about it.
Nah, it's great stuff. We're talking with Christopher Mad Dog Russo from SiriusXM. And, you've had a great run on Sirius. You've got the channel named after you and just a fun ride since you've moved over to SiriusXM from WFAN. Is it still fun for you?
Yeah, it definitely is. The MLB Network thing is fun, too. Do that every day. They built a studio for me at Sirius, so I don't have to commute to and from Secaucus, New Jersey, where the MLB Network is located. I don't have to do that every day. The radio, you did 5 hours for 5 years, and on Sirius, 5 hours talk radio nationally is too much because you need the local team sometimes to be on for that long. So 3 hours has been better, a little easier. But the flexibility of Sirius, Rob, is what you like best of all, is that you can go on there every day and do exactly what you want. If I want to go out there and I want to do FCIAC Sports, I can do that. I want to do Timmy Russo Basketball, I can do that. I want to go out there and I want to do, French Open tennis, I can do that. The opportunity to do anything I want is a major advantage, and that's what Sirius gives you a chance to do. So Sirius has been good to me. And they let there's no adult supervision. And then the MLB Network is basically a TV show on baseball every day, and they've been good to me, too. I've been very critical of the owners at times. That is an owner-operated vehicle and never any grief, so they've done a good job. So both have been very important. I get a weird day every day with the TV first, radio second, and you got to prepare for that TV. It's not like I can go on. For instance, there are 15 games today in baseball, 15 games from last night. I watched the Ranger game. I flipped around at the baseball. But when I go on TV today at 12 o'clock, I got to know what happened in every one of those games. Matt Kemp hit a 3-run double last night in the top of the 10th for San Diego. They beat the Angels. I got to know that before I go on the TV. I do not have to know that before I go on a radio show. But I have to know that Kemp hit the 3-run double, and you got to read about that. And, I didn't see it 1 o'clock in the morning. I got to read about that. So from that standpoint, it's a little bit more preparation with the baseball than there is for the radio, but it's still fun. And you got a huge staff, and they still do a tremendous job for you.
You brought up the Rangers. I can't help but ask. Rangers win Game 7?
I would probably say they wouldn't guarantee it. One of these days, the Rangers are going to get a bad bounce, and Lundqvist will have a bad spot in a Game 7. But the numbers are too difficult for Tampa to overcome. And they won 6 in a row at home in these Game 7s. They've won a lot of elimination games, 15 of 18 now in the last 3-4 years. Tampa, the game was right there for them last night, 2-1 late third period. Late second period. They had the advantage in play, and the Rangers figured out a way to get the job done. So you'd have to give the Rangers the edge. I do think that Anaheim or Chicago will beat the Rangers in the Stanley Cup in the final, but you'd have to give the Rangers the edge here in Game 7. It's been a very good. This is the difference between the NHL and the NBA. The NBA's conference finals, the better team always wins. There's never an upset. Atlanta, Cleveland put you to sleep. Golden State, Houston's put you to sleep. Be a good final, but it's put you to sleep. While the NHL conference finals, you had a good chance to have both series go 7 games.
Yeah, I think you're right about the NBA finals. I think it's going to be an outstanding final. Assuming
final.
Yeah, I think assuming we get what we're looking at, I think it's going to be.
We're going to get it. Golden State's not losing.
Yeah.
Cleveland's already won. You're going to get Cleveland, Golden State. That would be a very, very good final. I think Cleveland will win because of I think Golden State will win because of the Cleveland health issues, but that will be a very good final.
Switching back to baseball, of course, I can't talk to you and not talk a little Giants. You get a 6-3 win yesterday. Madison Bumgarner.
Well.
I mean, the Giants looking okay right now.
I thought the Giants would have a bad year. I really did. I thought the Giants off last year didn't make a lot of moves in the off season, losing Pence, no Kane. I thought the Giants were really going to struggle. They did early, but there's a championship medal to the Giants. They have a big manager. They know how to win. They have beaten the Dodgers 6 straight times at AT&T Park. Swept them 3 straight without LA scoring a run last week. They've done a great job to stick around here. They really have. They played pretty well on the road. This on-again, off-again thing, maybe that's a little motivating factor. They haven't played well off those championship runs. But now they have played pretty well after these 46 games. Long way to go, but they're going to get Kane back, which is going to help their pitching. They'll make a move in July if they have to fortify bullpen, maybe get another bat in the lineup. There's some moxie about the Giants, and San Diego hasn't shown that. Mets haven't shown that, and the Giants have. I think the Dodgers will probably win the division, with Greinke and Kershaw at the top of the rotation. That's difficult to overcome. I wouldn't rule out the Dodgers getting Hamels, because I think he'll be traded. So, from that standpoint, it won't be easy. But, obviously, I think San Francisco's got a hell of a shot to be in the postseason. And I think right now the divisional winners in the NL are going to be in the – I think the Nationals, Cardinals, and L.A. will win the divisions. I think those 2 last spots, Giants, Pirates, maybe the Mets, will fight for those 2 last spots. Will be interesting in the NL. American League a little bit more topsy-turvy, Rob.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And a couple of quickies for you. My director, Eric Gendron's sitting across the way, big Patriots guy, dog. And I know you absolutely went off on the Tom Brady situation. Spend a moment on that for me.
Well, listen, Brady, I don't think it's that big a deal in the big picture. But Brady didn't handle it right. So from that standpoint, I think that the suspension was warranted. I think he'll probably get a game knocked off. I don't think it'll be 2. I think it'll only be 1. I think he'll get a game knocked off, making it down to 3 games from 4. But I do not think that suspension will be rescinded whatsoever. There's no way that Goodell will knock that down to 0. I guess he could knock it down 2 games and knock it in half. I don't think Brady's got anything to show him that's going to change his mind about his guilt. He didn't hand over the phone the first time. I think Brady's best off just to look him in the eye and try to explain to him what he's up to with the deflated footballs and be honest with Goodell. Goodell did not want to suspend Brady. Brady is the poster boy. He's TV gold with ratings. I think there's a chance that he can get a game knocked off from the 4, but I do think he still will be suspended. I think the clue was the fact that Kraft didn't fight it. A lot of people think that Belichick told Kraft, don't do anything because he doesn't believe Brady. That was reported by Mike Florio and Ron Borges last week. Borges has covered the Boston scene for a long time. Florio of NFL Football, Pro Football Talk's done a great job. So that tells you something there, too. Be a little concerned about Brady playing those first couple games here in 2015.
You've written a couple of books. Ever going to do another one?
Those books are hard because it's not so much the book that is difficult. It's the promoting of the book that's hard. You got to promote that book, and promoting the books are very difficult because it takes time. You got to do book signings, lots of interviews. You got to get the book out there. I've done the 2. The first one did really well. Second one not as well. First one we really did well. But the second one, they been there, done that with the fans with the first book. I actually thought the second book was a better book, but the greatest arguments, was in 03. The second book was in 06. I could see doing one down the road. It's work, though, Rob. It's a lot of work doing books. These books are hard.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it is. And, one last thing for you. One of my favorite memories of our chat from December 2013 was talking baseball history. Anytime I can sit and talk baseball with a guy like you, that's always fun.
Rob, I appreciate that. The baseball history. I tell you right now, the book to read right now in baseball history is read the Charles Learson book on Ty Cobb, An American Beauty. He really gets rid of a lot of the myths about Cobb, being a racist, being an impossible, dirty player, being hated. You have a completely different picture of Cobb after you read this book. I'm not trying to say that he was a choir boy, but not nearly the ogre as particularly portrayed by Al Stump and other books on the Cobb in history. Really, really, when you get right down to it, I'm not trying to say a nice guy. I'm not trying to say, but, really not as bad a guy as you would think. Not as, and obviously great. So from that standpoint, I would not be, read that book. Read the new Ty Cobb book. It's an excellent read.
All right, that's good advice. I'm going to take that from you, dog. And once again, you're welcome here anytime. We love talking to you, and I hope we do it again really soon.
Rob, great job. Enjoy the games now. Do a good job play-by-play. I'm sure you will.
I'll do my best. Thanks, Chris.
Okay, buddy.